Chapter 18, Stalked in New York. New York City, the next morning. How can we find the artist Sheen? I'm pretty sure he knows something about mother and father. Sakura paced up and down in the hotel room. With the exception of Tomeo and Syaoran, everyone had left for shopping in the city. I can't believe Miho is Mizuki-sensei's cousin, Tomeo exclaimed. No wonder she knew about everything and had some strange powers. Sakura sighed, tugging at her golden brown ponytail. Did you find it yet? Wait. Syaoran was busily searching for a file on his laptop. I'm pretty sure Sheen's address will be inputted in here somewhere. He definitely lives in New York. Hurry! I need to find out today! Sakura clenched her fist. That disturbing painting. Her confusion was suffocating her. As she gazed at Syaoran, she felt a twinge of sadness. Unfortunately, she had happened to see his eyes when he gazed at the painting of Lee Ryuren. Yet, she wasn't ready for what she saw in his eyes. She saw the sadness and the forlorn yearning of a lost boy who lost his father. At least Sakura could remember the sense of warmth of her mother. Syaoran had nothing. No memories, no connections. He was not the self-assured, confident person he seemed to be on the outside. Inside, he was vulnerable, like anyone else. But he deserved better. If he wasn't a Lee, if his father didn't die, if he had no magic, if he had no connection to Clow Reed, would he have been a completely different person now? Yet, though it was selfish of her, she didn't want him to be different. If he did not have all the magic and the name to burden him, that would end the one tiny connection he had with her. It would mean no Syaoran in her life at all. That would mean a very empty life. Found it. Syaoran copied down the artist Sheen's address and slammed his laptop shut. Who knew that Uncle's data system had so much use? Stepping off the taxi, Tomeo, Syaoran, and Sakura gazed at the immense building in awe. The only word they had for it was very artistic. When they tried to enter the vast gateway, the housekeeper harshly replied, "Sorry, no visitors allowed." "But wait, it's really important. It's about the people in his paintings," Sakura said. Do you know how many times I hear that in a day?" The housekeeper tried to shut the door. "Wait!" Bam! The immense gate slammed shut in their face. Great. We'll have to find another way in. Sakura gazed up at an open window in the second floor, then at a tall, stable tree beside it. Aha! Nimbly, she ran to the foot of the tree. Reaching for a branch, she heaved herself up, gaining balance and footing on the trunk. Syaoran immediately followed her. By the time she was halfway up the tree, Sakura was panting. Who knew that climbing that tree would be so difficult? She rested for a moment. Her sea-green eyes flickered around, then upwards. For a second, she thought a black shadow was cast over her. Maybe it was a trick of the light. "Hey, move it, will you?" Syaoran called from the branch below. "Wait." Sakura began to hoist herself up again. "And whatever you do, don't look up, okay?" "Why?" Syaoran asked, pulling himself up to the next branch with ease. "I'm wearing a dress, stupid." "Lee-kun is a hentai," Tomeo called from below, with her V8. I'm not!" Syaoran called, panicking, his voice echoing throughout the mansion garden, and his face flushing not only because of the cold. Finally reaching the top, Sakura tried to swing herself to the second-floor windowsill. To her surprise, it was much further away from the tree than what she thought it was. With the momentum of the swaying branch, she tried to jump over to the sill. For a moment, she saw a shadow reaching over her. Her boots slipped from the branch. Desperately, she tried to grasp for a branch, but it cracked due to her weight. The next branch didn't even slow her down, and she crashed. Faster. "Sakura-chan!" Tomeo shrieked. "Fukashorai!" Syaoran whipped out an incantation paper. Immediately, Sakura was enveloped in wind, which landed her gently on the snow-blanketed ground. Oh, moaning slightly, Sakura picked herself up, brushing the snow off her coat. She widened her eyes as she stared at her boots. Why had she slipped? It wasn't like her to slip in that kind of situation. Maybe for some people, but she hadn't been a card captor for no reason. "What's going on out there?" A man opened the window, just in time to see Syaoran take a gigantic leap down from the top of the tree, landing beside Sakura with a soft thud. "You better teach me how to do that," Sakura commented dryly, indicating Syaoran's great jump. "Then again, I better not. I don't anticipate in accounting for any broken bones," Syaoran answered. "Don't you know it's not safe to climb trees in those kind of boots with slippery heels? Not to mention that the tree is coated with ice. It's not like you're a circus girl either. How do you expect you can jump from a tree to a windowsill, which is almost 2 meters apart?" "You were going to do it." "I'm different." "I know." She refused Syaoran's hand and stood up on her own. Her knees buckled, then held. Was it another mere accident? Or was it intentional also? "Well, be more careful." He folded his arms across his chest. Tomeo shook her head knowingly. Obviously, Iro's action plan number 2 was Syaoran's secret concern. The housekeeper was about to kick them out again when a deep voice from the intercom boomed, "Let them in!" In a room in the Sheen Mansion, New York. Sheen, the genius artist of the Angel and Warrior series, turned around in his vast armchair. "So, you kids wanted to see me?" Sakura stammered. This was a millionaire artist. To her surprise, Sheen seemed only around her father's age. He had a deep-set scowl as if was always angry, and his voice was clipped. She was starting to regret coming. "What do you want?" Hui! Then Sheen broke the tension by suddenly laughing a rich, low laugh. Leaping up, he shouted, "You're their children, right?" Syaoran and Sakura nodded eagerly. "Did you know them?" Sakura asked. Sheen's eyes turned dreamy. Not really. Personally. I was studying art in college at the time, in Japan. They may not remember me, but I watched them over for several months. I never saw such a striking twosome. When I first met them, Ryurin was literally shouting at Nadesico, and she was so angry and beautiful, yet what was strange was that suddenly she smiled, and all the anger and animosity melted away, and Ryurin couldn't help but calming down. That smile haunted me for the rest of my college and adult career. Gradually, I found out that they were wrapped in some serious business, more serious than anyone could imagine. Sheen's brown eyes clouded. "You spied on them," Syaoran accused critically. "I did," the artist admitted frankly. "I was always taking pictures of them. After a while, they both grew very annoyed with me, but I would do anything for the sake of art. I suggested for Nadesico to become a model. I remember them both vividly in my mind, yet the details are refreshed with photos." He indicated to his large album stack. Nadesico and Ryurin fighting off a force, eating, sleeping, smiling, scowling, working, all were compiled into the albums. In some pictures, Ryurin still had his long horsetail hair. In others, it was similar to Syaoran's, apparently after it was sliced off. Sheen pointed to a picture. "See? That star sapphire ring? Ain't it a beauty? It cost a fortune. I've offered to buy it off many times." In some pictures, the ring hung around Ryurin's neck in a chain, and in others, it was on Nadesico's slender finger, probably after the Christmas he gave it to her. Nadesico was literally an angel on the outside and inside, but Ryurin was a conceited little selfish brat. Grudgingly, Shin added, "Yet, he was only 17 at the time, and I was 20. I admired him and respected him. He had what you call charm, and he was very two-faced, too. I hope you're not like that," Shin indicated to Syaoran. Sakura and Syaoran gulped, taking in all the information. Someone outside who had observed their parents. "After I left Japan, I never saw them again." Shin ran across his canvas. "So, how are they now? Always arguing as ever? Deeply in love?" "Oh, God, I miss those days. Even if painting is my love and life now. But as you notice, the so-called Angel and Warrior is the only series I paint." "They're dead," Syaoran said shortly. "Dead?" Shin turned pale. "Dead? Nadesico and Ryurin dead? Then it's true. So, are you two orphans now?" "No, I live with my father," Sakura said, "and Syaoran-kun lives with his mother." Tilting his head, confused, Shin asked, "Wait a minute. You two aren't brother and sister? I thought they married each other." "No!" Syaoran and Sakura exclaimed. If their parents had married, they wouldn't even exist. "Oh." The artist cast his keen brown eyes down. "So, the fates didn't allow it after all. They eventually did break up. Oh, who would have thought? But, what do you know?" Seeing Syaoran, Sakura, and Tomeo's questioning eyes, he quickly stammered, "Don't mind me. I'm just talking to myself. Of course they wouldn't have married." Oh, I'm such a joker. Imagine them marrying. I should have known. Well, I got a parcel from Hong Kong around 20 years ago. Guess what was in it? He pointed to a duplicate of the smiling angel on the immense wall. The star sapphire ring, which I wanted so much. "The ring!" they both exclaimed. "Yeah." Ryurin wrote, "Since you wanted it so much, I don't need it anymore, and I can't bear having it with me." Well, how else would I paint it in so great of a detail? Staring admiringly at his painting, Shin added, "You do know what beauty that bright blue stone captures until you see it." Sakura sensed that he was trying to change the topic. "Do you have the ring with you now?" "Ah, yes, here." Unlocking a drawer, he drew out a small velvet case. Carefully, he opened it, then his eyes widened. "It's gone!" "Gone?" It's disappeared. I know I just had it last night. Someone must have taken it. I know I didn't misplace it." Shin rummaged desperately through his messy desk. "Are you sure?" Sakura trailed off. "I'm watching you in New York." "I may not know much, but..." Shin stared solemnly at the two teens. "Something has arisen again, hasn't it? It didn't end with Nadesico and Ryurin, and whatever split them apart will split these two apart too." He tossed them a small white card. "Do you know anything about this? I found it in my photo album yesterday." Grabbing it, Sakura read silently. 100 steps north from the statue of Alice, 20 steps east, and the 5th tree from the left. Dig a little deeper. I am still watching you. You'll never find who I am. There is no escape. "What's the statue of Alice?" Sakura asked, trying to sound steady. On the bottom of the note was a black skeleton mask. Shin replied, "Probably the one in Central Park. There's a statue of Alice. You know, from Alice in Wonderland." Nodding, Sakura slipped the note into her pocket, not bothering to show it to Syaoran. Boldly, she asked, "I've been meaning to ask you this, but what do you mean by your painting destruction? And why in the world was the world falling apart, with Ryurin-san pointing a sword at my mother's neck? What was the hidden meaning?" Laughing it off, the artist replied, "Just mere creativity. Nothing to take seriously. We all know Ryurin was crooked. Don't be disturbed by it." Yet he was unsuccessful in hiding his flickering eyes, overcast in fear. So, how come you two are in Japan? Timeo explained her story, and Sheen shook his head knowingly. The rest of their visit, he kept a light air. Before they left, he said a strange thing. Your closest friend may be your worst enemy. Half to himself, half to a painting on the wall. Well, good luck, Lee-san, Kinemota-san. May the fates be merciful this time. That evening. I can't believe we still didn't find a dress for New Year's Eve party, Erika exclaimed. The girls were walking down the lamp-lit New York street that evening after their shopping spree. It's okay. We can shop again tomorrow, Sakura reassured. For the moment, she was taking her mind off the stress of the disturbing painting and the mystery of Ryoren and his sapphire ring. We all know that Ryoren was crooked. What did that mean? And why had Sheen commented, so the fates didn't allow it after all? And what did the new note mean? A cool hand touched her arm. She flinched. Earth to it, it's only me. I was asking, where did you go earlier this day? Miho asked. Iro was worried. And why did Syaoran go with you? Sakura shuddered. There was no one to turn to or confide to. She did not know who was watching her. It could be anyone. Anyone. Her emerald eyes turned around with fear. That person could be following her that moment in the shadows, mocking her for her naive stupidity. That person could be following her every movement, and she didn't know it. Who stole the sapphire ring? Was it the same person who stole the 5-4 scroll? Or was the whole world full of unknown, unseen enemies waiting for the moment to slit her throat? Suddenly, the gray street around her seemed ghastly, overcast by the dark shadows of the lamps and building, where anyone could be lurking in any corner. The full moon was hidden by thick clouds. A flutter of pigeons could be heard. They were near the Central Park. Soggy gray snow clumped to her boots as she walked. A rustle could be heard behind the bushes. A scratchy, cruel voice said mockingly, Well, 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 5 little rich girls walking down the street, all alone. Didn't your mamas tell you it's dangerous at night in the city? Malin drew back behind Sakura. Who are they? Several more gang men joined the first one, who continued, We're just poor guys. Maybe you rich kids can donate us some money. In your dreams, Sakura said. Come on, let's go. She grabbed Timeo and Malin, followed by Erika and Miho. The gangsters moved into the front, blocking their way. Look, that little rich girl's got a video camera. Man, she must have fun with that kind of luxurious toy. Another scruffy man said, reaching for it. Don't touch it! Sakura slapped the man's hand. The impact echoed throughout the empty street. Strange. There was no one in the streets, even though it was nighttime. New York was always bustling with people, especially during the season. Rubbing his steaming hand, the large man sized up the fierce girl, mockingly. His cold, glinting eyes were unnerving. Looks like they want to fight back, boys, the leader said. Come on, give up all your money and valuables. It will do no harm. We don't have any money or valuables, Malin shouted. What's in your purse then? Nothing, Malin said, truthfully, sweat dropping. She had used up all the dollars on her shopping that day. She's right, one man said, peering into the empty wallet in disgust. Sakura bit her lips. Her wallet was full of money, more than she had ever carried, not to mention her crystal necklace. Something told her it was very valuable. Her gaze wandered over to the man she was facing. His features were indistinguishable because of the shadow, and he was dressed in black leather with silver chains around his neck. He definitely didn't look poor, Anyway, why would anyone try to rob girls, let alone tourists? Something definitely was wrong. Then she saw the leather jacket. On one arm was a badge, and on that badge was embroidered a black mask in the shape of a skeleton head. It had been on the threat notes, the same symbol that had recurred several times lately. Immediately, Syaoran dropped the scowl, which was usually reserved for 3 people he disliked the most: Aaron, Toya, and Iro. "What's the matter?" Yukito asked. The guys were walking back to the Plaza Hotel after unsuccessfully shopping for party clothes, mainly because they were not as enthusiastic as the girls, so they ended up in any other place than formal clothes store. "It's my sister and the others, right?" Toya asked quietly to Syaoran. He nodded. "What about your sister?" Nakuru asked, leaning against Toya's broad shoulders. "I thought you would look so cute in a tuxedo." "Hurry! It's near Central Park!" Syaoran ran off. "What?" Aaron stared at the long stretch of empty road. I guess Iro's action plan number 2 was right," Nakuru commented. "Whatever it is, Syaoran's weakness is his secret concern for Sakura." "Oh, right, Iro-kun?" The man dodged for Sakura. Deftly, she leaped over the man. Now she knew they were being controlled. That black skull badge. She had no one to depend on. She was on her own. There was no one to trust, no one to rely on. Someone might be watching her that moment, and she wasn't going to lose till she gave her very best. Quickly, a few martial arts training she learned from Syaoran took over. Though she only knew a few basic punches and kicking, she had practiced them every day, even after they no longer had lessons after that day. Slamming her hard fist into the man's gut, she twisted her knuckles, retreated, then returned with a sidekick, knocking the man to the ground. Erika screamed as another man came forward. Instantaneously, Sakura hurled out her elbow, digging into the soft part of his flesh, and kicked his leg hard. As Melanie gathered her wits, she finished off with some of her thunder fist punches. Panting, Sakura and Melanie looked around warily. They had done a pretty good job in fending themselves off of grown men. Tomeo was calming a blubbering Miho, while Erika was readjusting her shopping bags. "Watch out!" cried Tomeo. The fallen men were gradually standing again, and were joined by several more emerging from the dark alleys. "Don't think you'll get rid of us so easily, my dear," the leader said to Sakura. The black skeleton embroidered on the leather jacket gleamed in the darkness. His eyes glowed slightly reddish. "We always get what we want." He grabbed her arm. With agility, Sakura did a backflip, pinning the man to the ground. With all her might, she kicked out her leg, feeling her calf muscles strain as she struck the man's stomach. Even though her stomach felt queasy at the work she was doing, Sakura said calmly, "Don't you know that I never lose? Not the new me. I'm not a puppet to be played into the hands of the enemy. 'Cause I'm all on my own, and I'm going to fight with all that I've got. Who sent you? Who?" The leader tried to say something, then fell heavily to the floor, as if someone had cast a sleeping spell on him. A ghostly skeletal figure seemed to evaporate from him. Sakura backed away. For a moment, as Syaoran ran down to the alley to the fighting spot, he had a rueful, hooked smile, which Tomeo and Iro didn't fail to notice. So she's been practicing. Even after I stopped giving her fighting lessons, she struggled and practiced on her own. She beat those gangster men. Briefly, Syaoran knocked out the few remaining men, and by the time Toya, Yukito, and Aaron caught up, a dozen gang men were sprawled across the street. Readjusting her coat, Sakura was breathing heavily as her limp hair hung into her eyes, full of hatred and confusion. Why was someone doing this to her? Yet She felt sorry for all the men that she had knocked out. They couldn't help being controlled by the enemy. Examining the men on the floor, Syaoran looked up to see if Sakura was all right. With deeply concerned golden eyes, Syaoran quickly ran over to Sakura. "Are you all right, Sakura-san? I can't believe you were attacked by muggers."
"Thank you. I'm all right, Syaoran-san." Sakura gazed into his beautiful golden eyes like the bright sunlight on a dark night as her emerald bright eyes shone back.
"Here, you must be cold." Syaoran unwrapped his blue scarf off his neck and wrapped it around her neck. She blushed, smiling sweetly. Wistfully, Syaoran turned aside again. So much for that. Off the side, Iro murmured to Tomeo, "Looks like I don't need help out in this situation, adding oil to an already burning fire."
"Yeah, Syaoran's absolutely perfect," Tomeo said.
"Too smooth and too perfect." Iro cast his mid-eyes down. Smiling softly at Iro, Tomeo commented,
"Look who's talking. But you are right. What more can you ask from a guy? Lee-kun has things tough."
"Don't tell me you knocked out all these big men," Toya said dryly to Sakura.
"Hui," Sakura started sweat dropping.
"Don't take all the credit, Sakura-chan," Meilin said, rubbing her hands together.
"Why, I was so scared," Miho cried, sniffing on Iro's handkerchief.
"Don't cry, it's all over. See? They're all knocked out," Syaoran indicated to the men.
"Okay," Miho said meekly. "At least I have all my money safe," Rika commented. "Syaoran-kun, thank you for saving us. You were marvelous. My hero."
Sakura and Meilin glared at Rika. They had done all the dirty work, and that's the thanks they received? Sadly, Sakura cast her eyes down. There was a time when Syaoran comforted her when she cried, yet he didn't even ask her if she was all right. He said he hated seeing someone cry. It was nothing special. A dry humor in her told her that Syaoran would make a great older brother if he had any younger siblings. After all, Miho was younger, so she must have been scared. More scared than Sakura was. At least Syaoran-kun and Iro. As they were about to leave, Syaoran lurked behind and bent over the gang leader. To Sakura's surprise, Syaoran slipped out his elegant pocket knife with the golden dragon carving. With the gleaming blade, he sliced off the badge on the muscular man's black leather jacket. The embroidered skull seemed to grin wickedly at her, and she shivered, frozen to the spot. What was that for? The knife. And hadn't Syaoran said that the knife blade was so blunt that it couldn't cut anything? Yet it cut the leather jacket with perfect ease. Why had he lied to her? And why did he cut it out of the skeleton badge? But he's always helped you and stood by your side. How can you even think such a thing? Another dark voice told her. But not for a long time. He's always been so secretive and dark. Even more so these days. You don't really know him, but he knows everything about you. And in that painting, the destruction. Why had Ryuran-san pointed a sword at Nadesco's neck? Who knew what their real relationship was? All reason and sensibility washed out of her, along with all the time that Syaoran had been with her and saved her. Hadn't someone said, your closest friend may be your worst enemy? Sakura stumbled as she tried to walk faster towards the endless road of the city night. A young man with dark brown hair pointed a long, gleaming sword at a slender girl who was trembling. Both of their faces were blurred. But I thought you were my friend. How can you betray me? The girl said, sobbing. Why? This is the way it was meant to be, he replied calmly. This is our fate. The image shattered into a million pieces,
and the spidery cracks filled with bright ruby blood. There was a blue, flickering light in the distance. She reached for the sparkling star sapphire ring. If she caught it, everything would be all right. She could catch it. Just as she grasped it, it fell through the crack, lost forever. Its mocking, flickering azure light faded. No! Muffling a scream, Sakura bolted up from her bed. The spotless white sheets of her bed in the Plaza Hotel were tangled around her legs. Tomeo, Malin, and Erika were sleeping soundly on the beds beside her. Gazing at the digital clock, she found that it was 2 a.m. Quickly, she slipped into black clothes and tucked her tightly braided golden mahogany hair into her black hat. She slipped the note, 100 steps north from the statue of Alice, 20 steps east, the 5th tree from the left. Dig a little deeper. I am still watching you, and you'll never find who I am. There is no escape. Into her pocket, releasing the staff and drawing out the fly card, she opened the living room window and flung one leg out. Where do you think you're going? A light tenor voice asked from behind her in the dark shadows of the adjoining living room. Sakura jumped and started to tremble uncontrollably. Nowhere? What are you doing up at this hour? What are you doing with one leg out the window? Syaoran folded his arms across his chest, as if he was challenging her. He was dressed completely in black also, blending in with the dark room. His keen amber eyes gazed at her without flickering. You're going to the statue of Alice in Central Park, aren't you? All by yourself? How'd you know? Sakura asked. She hadn't even shown him the note. I have my methods. Right. He's always capable of anything. Since when have I been so scared of Syaoran? He's in this with me, remember? He's always helped me when there's danger, yet why is everything happening when we're far away in New York? It must be someone who could have close watch over me, yet he helped me all through capturing and mastering the cloud cards, but that was years ago. He had been my rival for some time, too. Oh, he must have hated my guts. Then a dreadful truth dawned upon her. When did all the trouble start? On the exact day that Syaoran returned to Japan. A suspicion kissed her. All common sense and reality swept away, like the candlelight blown out by the night gust. I guess this must be the statue of Alice, Sakura said, gazing up at the statue of Alice in Wonderland. She had liked the story when she was younger. So had Iro. Gradually, she'd started to relax and made sure that her suspicion didn't leak out. There was no way she was going to let Syaoran know. So, it's 100 steps north from here? Syaoran asked. God, why was he in such a scrape? He'd been planning to sneak out secretly, but Sakura had the same thing on her mind. Sakura, what did she mean by trying to manage everything on her own? Was she going to a place where he couldn't reach? If she didn't trust him, then... Which way is north? Sakura interrupted. Taking out his lazing board, Syaoran indicated the direction. He felt like bashing his overfueled head against a tree. It didn't help that they were hardly on speaking terms. He'd even forgotten why they were mad at each other in the first place. What a great way to start out a trip, he thought sarcastically. She refused to tell him anything, and he was left all alone to figure out the background work. Not that he wasn't used to working alone. That wasn't a problem, but when she insisted on being so separated and self-relying, what was he supposed to do? Sit back and watch? He couldn't just leave her. Anyway, if she didn't trust him, then who else would she trust? Now wait! Syaoran caught up. 100, Sakura exclaimed, reaching a gathering of trees. No, it's not. Yes, it is. I counted. Without protesting further, they took 20 steps east. Okay, the 5th tree from the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This must be it. Sakura stared triumphantly at the fir tree. Then, she shuddered. Crookedly, with a knife, someone had carved in it an outline of a skull with an arrow pointing down. Its empty eyes seemed to gaze directly at her. Let's just go back. Why do we have to follow the instructions of a stupid note? It can be dangerous. Stubbornly, Sakura persisted. No, I'm going to find out what's here. And what about this tree? The note didn't say what to do with it. It said dig a little deeper. But that's just a saying, a meaning, to look further or deeper into the facts. Well, take it literally. See this arrow on the tree trunk? It's indicating to dig down here. Whipping out a shovel, Sakura struck the frozen soil beneath the tree. Where'd you get that? Syaoran asked in awe, indicating the shovel. Shrugging her shoulders, Sakura replied, I borrowed it from the hotel gardener. Tell me, why do I have to do the digging? Syaoran grumbled, trying the shovel, the rock-hard dirt. With her previous fear melted away, Sakura giggled. Silly. What else did you come for? Turning serious, Syaoran said, Look, let's go back. This is just a silly prank. We're just wasting our time. See? There's nothing here. Anyway, I've already dug a meter deep and there's nothing here. It's just a mistake. Forget this. Sakura narrowed her forest green eyes. Since when was Syaoran so eager to back out? First he said it was too dangerous. Now he's trying to say that it was a silly prank? That it was nothing? Was he trying to hide something? Did he actually know more than he acted like he did? Was he trying to keep her from knowing something? No. You can go back if you want to. I'm not. You know that I can't just leave you, Syaoran grumbled. Just then, the spade struck something hard in the ground. Sakura bent down on the ground and peered into the hole. Together, they wriggled out a small, rotting wooden chest. Brushing away the crumbs of dirt, Sakura struggled to open it. Stand back. I think I can pry the rotten wooden lid away. Syaoran sawed at the crumbling lid with his pocket knife. He seemed to have forgotten completely that he had stayed at the airport, that the knife was blunt and useless. There. I think we can yank it open now. Gently, Sakura opened the wooden lid. The moment she opened it, a disgusting, pungent smell reached her nose. Slightly salty and like rotten fish. For a moment, her emerald eyes widened. With unimaginable horror, she gazed in terror. Since her hands were soiled, she couldn't cover her eyes, and she couldn't shut them either. Syaoran stared in dismay. Inside was a trampled, ripped branch of a sakura blossom, bent beyond recognition and tied with the hangman's noose. Sakura could almost feel the noose tighten around her neck. Above it lay a small replica of the painting, The Destruction, except that the young man was holding a knife to the girl's throat, and the knife was golden hilted with dragon carvings, the same that Syaoran carried. The tiny replica had been also shredded to pieces. It splattered everywhere in the wooden chest, along its sides, the broken blossom, and then the shredded painting was splashes of dark scarlet red, dried to almost brownish black. That was where the repulsive, rotting smell had been coming from. As Sakura opened her mouth to scream, no sound came out. Finally she gagged, then croaked. What? In a matter-of-fact way, Syaoran replied, blood. Dried, old blood. Sakura shuddered again. How could he be so calm? Her stomach rebelled and lurched, and she bent over to throw up, but she couldn't. Droplets of crimson blood danced in front of her eyes. There was a note stained with scarlet blood in the chest, which simply stated, a dazzling night that you can't see, that you can't face. A marvelous explosion. Have a frightful new year. Without wasting another moment, Syaoran shut the lid of the chest and placed an ofuera on it and set it on fire. Erase! Sakura used the card to erase all signs of the disruption to the park, including the hole in the ground, burnt ashes, and the carving on the 5th tree. Yet, the morbid image would never be erased from her mind. She felt as if her hands were dripping with fresh, silvery blood. New Year's Eve was 2 days away, and there was no one she could trust. Not even her friends, not even Syaoran. Have a frightful new year.